Find all vertical and horizontal asymptotes for the function f of x is equal to 3 times x plus 5 times x plus 6 over 2 times x plus 3 times x plus 5. So this is nice. It's in factored form for us. So the first thing we want to do is find our vertical asymptotes. Remember that our vertical asymptotes is found in our denominator. So it looks like we have two vertical asymptotes at x equals -3 and at x equals -5. Now to find our horizontal asymptote, we have to think about our conditions, right? So we have to find out what our exponents are going to be. So because there's no numbers here, that means there's a little imaginary 1 there. So this looks like our highest degree is going to be a 3x squared, right? And there's more to it, but we only care about our highest degree. So then on the bottom we have a 2x squared. So because our two exponents are the same, when n and k are the same, our horizontal asymptote is the ratio of the coefficients. So our horizontal asymptote is going to be y equal to 3/2. So we're actually going to learn something new, and it's called a hole. So we're going to backtrack here, back to our function. So a hole is actually when you have a factor on the bottom as well as the top, it is a hole. So we have a hole at -5, which means that it's not a vertical asymptote at -5. Our only vertical asymptote is at x equals -3. So now that we found that, let's find our y-intercept so we can sketch out our graph. So we find our y-intercept by plugging in 0. So you get 3 times 0 plus 5, that's 5, times 0 plus 6, that's 6, over 2 times 0 plus 3, 3, 0 plus 5 is 5. Cancel these 3's, cancel these 5's, you get 6 over 2, that's 3. So we have a y-intercept at 0, 3. Okay, and we have a vertical asymptote at -3 and a horizontal asymptote at 3/2. Sorry, that's supposed to be in between the 1 and the 2. Just going to move the 1 down there. Okay, so now we've got this. So we know that we have a hole at -5, but we want to find out what's our y value, because our hole, as of right now, we have a -5 comma something. So to find that something, we have to plug in 0 for the remaining parts of our graph. So we've crossed out our hole, so we have to plug in 0 now. Or not 0, we plug in -5, sorry. So you go 3 times -5 plus 6 over 2 times -5 plus 3, which is 3 times 1 over 2 times -2. So that's 3 over -4. So -3/4. So this is where our hole is. That's our y. So 3, 4, 5. Let's say this is 1, so it's in between. So here's our hole. And that's how we draw a hole. We draw a hole as a not included circle. So if we had to find f of -5, we would say that it does not exist. So that's what we've been seeing in all our previous graphs. We've been seeing this open circle. That means that there's a hole at that value. So let's draw on our graph now. So this graph is going to go up following our vertical asymptote there. This one's going to go this way following our horizontal asymptote. This one's going to go this way and this way. So this is what our graph looks like. So pause the video here and find those limits below. Okay, so this is what you should have gotten as your limits. Check over your answers, and don't forget that when you don't have a negative or a positive exponent, it's your job to look at the graph as it's approaching that value from the left and the right side. Okay, so flip over to the back, and it says practice. Find any holes in each of the following. So I want you to take a few minutes here. Remember that our holes are if we find a factor that's the same in the bottom as well as in the top. So if it's in the numerator and the denominator, that means that that value is a hole, but you have to also find the coordinate for it. So find the x and the y. Take a moment to do that. Okay, so you should have gotten that our hole is at -3, 7. So let's just go over how we got that if some of you did not get it. So what do we have in common here on the top and the bottom? We have an x plus 3, which tells us that our hole is at -3. Now to find our 7, we have to plug in -3 into the remaining factors. So you have 2 times -3 minus 1 times -3 minus 5 over -3 plus 2 times -3 minus 5. So you get -7 times -8 over -1 times -8. Cross those out and you get 7. And that's how you get your hole. Okay, let's look at the next sheet. So now we've got g of x is equal to x squared plus 3x minus 4 over 2x plus 4. So they didn't factor this for us. So take a moment first and factor this out. And let's see if we have anything uncommon on the top and the bottom. Okay, so once you've factored it out, we try to see if there's anything in common, and it doesn't look like it, which means that there is no horizontal, there is no hole. There is no hole, right? There's nothing that's in common. Okay, now flip it over. Okay, again, take a moment to factor this out. So when you factor this out, you get an x plus 1 times x minus 1 over x minus 2 times x plus 1, which means that we have a hole here at -1. So in order to find that comma something, right, we plug in -1 into the rest of our graph. So we have, into the rest of our function, sorry. So we have -1 minus 1 over -1 minus 2, which then gives you -2 over -3, which is just positive 2/3. So this is where our hole is.